All right, I set this coil winder up. It's the one that the people in the groups always brag about. If you mention making a coil, there's always one guy that, oh, I got one of those coil. What's it called? The Coilmaster? Yeah, it's Coilmaster. You used to buy it from the back of a magazine. It's from More Co. Morico Incorporated. From Iowa. It's probably not in business anymore, but when you turn the crank, it has a turns counter here. All right. This is a cam over here that moves the head back and forth, and you can set this cam to do like half-inch coils, 1-inch coils, quarter-inch, 1-inch, half-inch, whatever. But I bought it for just one reason. I wanted to see what these two gears were, and it comes with extra gears. It comes with extra gears. Oh, right out of the frame. Unbelievable, that camera. But anyway, different setups for different type of coils. It's loosey-goosey. You need to mount it to a piece of wood. You turn the crank, and obvious this tracks this arm that makes it move back and forth. It tracks the cam. Hopefully this is still in the frame. Yeah. All right, so you're cranking, and it's moving back and forth. Now, what's different than this from a stepping motor? Now, this cam is always synchronized with each revolution. So each revolution goes down this gear and gets onto this gear. So if this didn't have an odd number of teeth, what would happen is this would go back and forth, and it would put the wire exactly on top of itself. That's what's wrong. But with this, they use an odd number of teeth, and there's always a drift. There's always a drift from the back and forth motion to the rotary motion. Don't mind me. There's a garbage truck out in front of the house. Okay, it's gone. It distracts me because I've gotten involved with people's garbage. But anyway, that's what it looks like. And this is the thing that, if you mention about winding the coils, oh, get one of them Coilmasters. It's loosey-goosey. Yes, if you've done coils before, and you bolt this to a bench, and you take your Litz wire and you wax it, you wind the coil, and the wax will make the windings stick to each other. All right? That's the first trick. Then after you're done with the coil, you use coil dope. Clear nail polish will do. But I just want to tell you, I mentioned that one person mentioned they tried building with steppers, and it was a trick. And I used nested loops. I wrote all my code line by line. No tricks, no trick words, just straight lines of code, Arduino code. And I could troubleshoot it because each line, when you read the line, it told you, I left notes, it told me what it was going to do. And every so many turns, it would add an error in, and it was part of the nested loop. I didn't just use a loop, it was a nested loop. And that means that the correction would come more than once per revolution or whatever I used. It was I sat there and I thought about it, and I did it, and I did the video, and I made a wave coil, which is very hard to make. Other people tried with the stepper motors, and the stepper motor, it seems so perfect, and then all of a sudden you put the wire in there, and it's winding it on top of itself. It's doing the same. It's going back and forth, but it's putting the wire on top of the other wire. It doesn't put it alongside. And the trick with this is why it works. This is, I think, 33 teeth. And these are 40s. 42, I think one's a 48. So you have even number and one odd, and that causes there to be drift. Now, with the Arduino, probably there's a way of putting a divider chip, a couple dividers, and make like a divide by 13, and put that in your step. So as your step signal comes out, it gets divided by an odd number, and you can get around the fact that the stepper motor is exact. Right? See, I did it with software. That's how at that moment in time, I just said, I'm going to do it with Arduino. I'm going to hook it up. I'm going to put it on the internet, and I'm going to give enough clues to someone that really wants to do it. We'll figure it out. Well, maybe there weren't enough clues. I don't know how smart I am. I have dyslexia, ADD, anxiety problems, and they used to tell me I was slow in school. And then all of a sudden, when I got towards like senior year, the teachers were coming up and asking me questions about electronics. They had all kinds of problems. And then this one teacher, he had just started, and he became principal later on. He says that teachers go into a subject that they're good at. He said if they went into a subject like math that they weren't good at, they would have a little bit more respect for the students. It was a watershed moment for me. I started realizing, why would you teach math if you're not good at math? So you teach history, and year after year, you're learning these facts. And some poor student comes in there, and he can't remember what year there was a battle, and this is your favorite subject, and you're browbeating the kid, and the kid's having trouble because all those numbers, you go nuts trying to listen what war happened where, what country. See, the guy who's teaching you, he's good at that. So you put him in a room with a math teacher, and you'll see him choking. All right. I just want to tell you these things in life. When you finally see the bullshit of life, how many teachers, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, but they're good at one thing, and they teach that one thing. And you're sitting there, and they want you to be as good as them, and they call you a slacker. Meanwhile, they've had years to become good at something, and you have other subjects that you have to do. It's messed up. And no one ever sits down once in a while and says, hey, look, well, now they don't care if you learn or not. But back in my day, everybody was being raised to be president. They really gave me a hard time. And I had trouble, man. They always wrote down he's a pleasant personality. He tries really hard, But I could have put a little more effort in if I had understood the dyslexia and the ADD a little bit better. Mrs. Bielis was my grammar school principal, and she started explaining to me. She says, you just have these learning disabilities. She says, but once you learn, you're good. She says, you just have to work harder than everybody else, and that's not what I exactly wanted to hear. I had to read something 3 times before I'd retain it. But once I retain something, I have it for almost forever, and that's deadly. That was really good on the quarterly test. You'd have quarterly tests. So if you didn't do week to week, if you did good on the quarterly test, that was 75% of the mark for that quarter. And so if you did good, you could make it up. It's sort of like college in high school. So in other words, you're doing bad on individual tests, but then you keep studying, and all of a sudden you grasp it, and then you pull your grade up. But I didn't have college grades. I couldn't get into college. I could get into college, but it'd be fairly ridiculous or fairly Dickinson. It'd be all the crap. And I wanted to go in electronics. And that's what I was good at. And I would walk by that ret school. It was over in Kearney by 2 guys. And I'd walk by and I'd stand and look in the window. And they had the instructors, and there was a lot of GIs in there. And then when it came time, they moved over into Nutley into a bigger building. And they had more classes. And it was real cheap. I think it was $1,800 for the whole course. And it makes a big difference. When you go to rets and come out, the amount of money you'd make per hour was way different than if you just come out of high school. So it was all worth it. And I built on it, and the companies would send me to school. And I got where I'm at. And then I had dreams of making things and building things and understanding. And when you're on your own speed, your own time, you can learn a lot more. And you're not learning it for a test. You're learning it because you want to know it. But this thing here, that neighbor I always talk about that never built anything. He just run his mouth. And he had all these buzzwords and shit and fake stories. And he would have said, I think I have one of them coil winders. He thought he had everything because he's a pack rat. and it took weeks, his kids weeks to clean his crap out. It was all packed in the cellar, and you know, he'd come over to my house and he'd see what I was working on, and he's like, "Well, how do you know how to do this?" My father used to do the same thing to me. They stand there and I look at something in disbelief because they didn't do the work. It just doesn't come to you. You know, you just can't sit down in front of a piano and start playing. My father actually believed some of that shit. He bought this organ, and he says, "Don't they just move their hands?" He was getting squirrely at the end, and then he started putting numbers on the keys and the whole. It was bad. But I noticed, as I think back now on some of the stuff he pulled, he really thought some things were simpler than they were. And then he would get in there and he'd be in the, what we call it, the rabbit's hole. I I go in voluntarily into rabbit holes because if the thing was working for 20 years and it stopped working, it's repairable, maybe if you can get the part. But in other words, there's no voodoo, there's no spirit in the machine keeping it from working. Something needs a drop of oil, or has come loose. And that's what the two main things when you win something old. It needs some oil, or something came loose. And of course, you got the people who go in there with the spray lubricants, and they spray it in all the wrong places, and they make things slip that shouldn't slip. Yeah, and then you go in there, and you have to clean the mess up before you can even start. And they're over your shoulder. What's taking so long? Man, I just feel like taking one of them outside and beating the ever-living crap out of them. You know, what's taking you so long? I sprayed some stuff. I was trying. That's how they talk. I was trying something. You don't know what you're doing. You were trying something. Yeah, I was trying something. Yeah, I had so many of those people around me. I was trying something. Like the neighbor next door, bringing out the parts lawnmower and calling over farty arty, and then them calling me a fucking idiot. It was the parts lawnmower. The real lawnmower was still in the cellar. I said, this lawnmower can't work. There's no on-off switch. There's no this, there's no that. And the two of them are looking at me with that look. And then I went in the house, and I told my mother, I said, Grewcock called me a fucking idiot. She goes, what's going on? I said, he's got a lawnmower out there that can't possibly work. And I said, Farty Arty's out there with him, agreeing with him. So then my mother made a phone call, whatever. Later on, she says, Mr. Grewcock took the wrong lawnmower out. He's got a parts lawnmower that Professor Backwards would take parts off and put on it to keep the lawnmower running because Grewcock was cheap. He was Englishman, cheap. They're cheaper than everybody. All right? Oh, Grewcock. His daughter grew one, all right. Unbelievable. But I just wanted to show you this thing. And someone said, oh, could you ever go look on the internet? There's a Guinery version of this. It was a kit. Not a kit, a set of plans. And there's other people on YouTube that make coil winders. But I'm telling you, if you use stepper motors, you have to divide the step by probably an external chip. And now on my stepper motors, I ran them off that board, the header board on the Arduino. So there's no way I could divide the step signal because I had the Arduino controlling the phases of the motor. Yeah, I know how to do all that stuff. I showed you the video. I showed you my original stepper. I brought it home. I brought home a little controller board from a paper tape reader, and I had a scope at the time, and I scoped out. It was a Heath kit. It was the cheapest, bottomest, crappiest scope. And then as the transistors heat up, out of 4, you always notice there's 2 hot, and that's full step, 2 phase on it. It gives you more holding torque, right? And there's full step, there's half step. Half step's usually done with a bipolar motor. I think you might be able to do it with a unipolar. But anyway, go read up on all this stuff. Some of it's still up on the internet. Unfortunately, things are disappearing because they want to get you to see a commercial as soon as possible. That's what's going on. You're like, why can't I find anything? That's because other crap's popping up on you. And other websites, they have keywords. They have almost every keyword in the world. So as you search, it's going to tell you it's on that website. And you go on that website, and it's not there. It was just to get you there so they can sell you something, you know. And yeah, this coil winder, if you mounted it down and worked it a little bit, Probably put the oil in the right places, and it's a piece of cast white metal. This is white metal. They used to call it that. It's cast. It's not aluminum, I don't think. Well, anyway, yeah. And this thing was, believe it or not, I think it was $7.95 when it first came out. $7.95. And now when you go to buy one, I think I paid $35 for it. And there's parts missing. There are parts missing. But I just wanted to see this. Make sure this is in the frame. Yeah. I'll buy something just to see what the trick is. All right. And then I pass it on to you guys. You know, if you run two steppers and they're on the same oscillator and they're divided down, and it's going to go back and forth, and it's going to put the wire on top of itself. It's so cool to watch when it does it. You want the wire alongside. Now on a fishing pole, I don't know if you've ever seen those kind of fishing poles. It's a real kind, and it goes back and forth, but it's got a gear in there, and it's an odd number. That's why it winds the string evenly. Okay, it's all the same shit. I think that's it. All right, that's it.